Hello everyone and welcome to Southern Community Church's video message of the week. This week I want to share with you two true stories of people who had their lives dramatically changed by an encounter with Jesus. And both of the stories are actually connected with the tax man. Let me share with you first of all the true story of a man who had spent his life searching for ways to make more and more money. His family were all Christians, but he rejected the idea of following Jesus and wanted to make his own way in life. He rejected the family and left home as soon as he could. However, the family never rejected him, and they kept praying for him over many years. His grandmother in particular prayed very much for him. She had given him a Bible, but he just threw it on one side. He didn't want to throw it away, as it was a big family Bible in good condition, and he didn't want to upset his gran. But he did think he would sell it when she died. He turned his hand to ever more risky ways of making money. Each of his businesses ended in ruin, but money became the sole object of his life. It ruined his relationships, made him miserable, but he didn't know any other way to live. And then one day he started up a second-hand bookshop. Unfortunately, the taxman caught up with him, and they were coming to assess the bookshop to see how they could get back the tax that was owed. So he went through the bookshop and he identified the most expensive books, and he took them and hid them in the shed in his garden. And when the taxman came to the shop, they decided that they ought to take all the business from him to pay the overdue tax, so his business was closed down. He wasn't worried though, as he thought about the books he had stored away. He decided to leave the books in the shed for a while before selling them in case the taxman saw and came back after him again. But when he got round to reopening the shed, he was horrified to find that mice had eaten a lot of the books, and that water had got into the shed and ruined all the rest of the books apart from one, which was his grandmother's Bible. And he then thought to himself, I'm ruined. Maybe I should start to think about God, find out more about him. And he knew he should read the Bible, but he didn't want to spoil his grand's Bible. So he decided to go to a local church and see what they said about it. And almost as soon as he entered the church, he was met by the minister, who introduced himself, and then he asked him if he would like a Bible. That made him realise that God was really interested in him. And he went home and he started to read the Bible that he'd been given, and he started to understand how much God loved him. He gave his life to Jesus, and he became a transformed man. He started other businesses, run on biblical lines, which became very successful. And then he felt a call to share the good news with other people, and ended up hiring halls to hold meetings to share what he had learned about the love of God. In fact, he is still preaching about the change God made in his life today. If you would like a copy of the Bible, then please let us know. Just email to info@southerncommunitychurch.org.uk and we'll send you one for free. We'll show more details of how to contact us at the end of the video. The second story can be found in the Bible, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19. Why not pause the video at this point and find the passage so we can read along together if you want. So Luke 19, starting at verse 1. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, He's gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Zacchaeus was a successful businessman, a chief tax collector. In those days, there were 3 primary places where taxes were collected in Israel: Capernaum, Jerusalem, and Jericho. and Zacchaeus, being the chief tax collector in Jericho, was over one of the big three. He was head of a tax collecting operation with other collectors who extorted the people and paid him before he paid the Romans. He was hated, despised, and isolated by his fellow Jews. We know that people doing this job during Jesus' time were widely shunned, and tax collectors extorted their fellow Jews on behalf of the Roman government and used very questionable methods to accrue vast personal wealth. As a senior tax collector in the important business hub of Jericho, Zacchaeus would have been well known for his long involvement in the very corrupt system that was there. But Jesus had a very different view of Zacchaeus. He assessed him this way: the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. In other words, Jesus saw the real problem with Zacchaeus. He did the things he did because he was lost. And Jesus was passing through Jericho. It seems that he did not intend to stay there, and yet he changed his plans to be a guest of Zacchaeus. And as Jesus came into town, Zacchaeus could not see over the crowd, so he sprinted down the street and scurried up a tree, trying to catch a glimpse of him. In this culture, it was considered undignified for an older man to run. If you were a government official, you did not do something like this at all. It was not appropriate. But Zacchaeus didn't care. He wanted to see Jesus. And here comes Jesus with the crowd. They were pushing and pulling amidst a lot of noise and excitement. And suddenly, as the Lord passed by, he stopped. He looked up to Zacchaeus and called out his name. The crowd was shocked when Jesus approached Zacchaeus and invited himself over for tea. They were shocked because for anyone to avail himself of the hospitality of a known sinner was a scandal in the Jewish culture. And yet Jesus entered into relationships with the most marginalised members of society. And everyone stopped and looked at Zacchaeus. I doubt they were looking at him with love. They were probably thinking, let's cut this tree down with him in it, or I hope he falls out of the tree. But I believe that Jesus' look was different from the rest. I think his look was one of love and compassion. Jesus told him, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. Can you imagine the excitement that filled the heart of Zacchaeus? He probably came down that tree a lot more quickly than he went up it. And Jesus and Zacchaeus had a conversation that changed the course of this chief tax collector's life. Something dramatic happened during that visit. But Scripture doesn't reveal what was said, but it's very clear that Zacchaeus came out a different man than when he went in. Zacchaeus realised that Jesus was not merely a guest in his home, but in reality the host. And how important is it that we make this same discovery? Once we have given our lives to Jesus, we are under his command. When we have placed our faith in Jesus, we are no longer our own. It's not even correct for a believer to say, my future, my life, my plans, my career, my family. Rather, a believer should say, now I belong to the Lord and I want to do what he wants me to do. The Apostle Paul prayed for the believers in Ephesus that Christ would dwell in their hearts through faith. That you can find that in Ephesians 3 verse 17. A more literal translation of this statement would be something like this: my prayer is that Christ would settle down in your hearts and finally be in your home, that he would settle down as a family member. It was the idea of Christ being at home in their hearts and lives that Paul wanted to share. And clearly this change had taken place in Zacchaeus. Salvation had come to him. He was no longer the same man. Can someone see by the evidence in your life that salvation has come to you? Jesus may be calling your name right now, wanting to settle down in your heart. And maybe you're treating him a bit like a guest, an honoured guest, granted, but still a guest. Is Jesus at home in your life right now? Does he have free rein? Can he do what he wants to do? Jesus wants to help you and change you. Like Zacchaeus, welcome him into your life and let him have his way. If he does throw something out, just know that what he will put something back in better in its place. And Zacchaeus demonstrates how the gospel transforms our views about personal finance and business practices. Instead of theft, he practiced generosity. Instead of cheating others, he now made restitution. And a life transformed by Jesus includes a change in the way we serve others through our wealth. And Zacchaeus' story provides hope for all those who are searching for wealth or other things at the expense of a right relationship with God. Consider your own situation. Is it a stumbling block to closer fellowship with God and others, or does it draw you closer to him? The story of Zacchaeus teaches us that being rich doesn't protect us from being damaged. You know, how some wealthy people get damaged is often found in the story of how they got rich in the first place. And when you violate your conscience, it's hard to live in your own skin. When you trade your core values for money, your success can be hollow and your guilt can feel heavy. And Zacchaeus struggled with this, but after his encounter with Jesus, his response was this: Lord, if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay him back 4 times the amount. And Jesus said 3 things to Zacchaeus. He said, first of all, make haste. Don't put your salvation off a day longer. At any given moment, you're as close to eternity as a faulty heartbeat or a malignant cell. Don't gamble with your soul. Get right with God while you can. And secondly, he said, come down. Humble yourself. Kneel at the feet of the one who loves you and gave his life to redeem you. It doesn't matter how badly you failed. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1 verse 9. And thirdly, today I must abide at your house. The word abide means to take up residence. Refuse to live another day without the assurance that Christ lives in your heart, directs your steps, and watches over all that concerns you. You know, Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was by looking at him from a safe position. But you can't know anyone just by looking at them. Something else has to happen. And Jesus struck up a relationship with Zacchaeus, and this caused a great change in his future way of living. Jesus said he has come to seek out and to save the lost. That final verse that we read is the lens through which we are asked to contemplate this entire story. Zacchaeus is a high-ranking tax collector in the pay of the Roman occupiers. To his fellow Jews, he's a traitor, and in their words, a sinner. Yet he is the man whom Jesus chooses to be his host during his stay in Jericho. What does this say about Jesus? About his ministry? About his priorities? Jesus is interested in you. He knows all about you, your life, your experiences, your successes, and your failures. And he wants you to experience a much richer, deeper, fuller life. Will you let him abide in your house today? God bless you all, and we will see you again soon. Let's pray. Help us, Lord, to put our trust in you and you alone. Amen.